I'm Sabrina Zainal, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Johor state election, EC set March 12th as polling day. And IPT students to return to campus in stages beginning March 1st. Good morning. The Election Commission, EC, has set March 12th as the polling day for the Johor state election. Its chairman, Dato' Abdul Ghani Saleh, said nominations will be on February 26th and early voting on March 8th.
Daftar pemilih pilihan raya DPPR yang akan digunakan untuk PRU Dewan Negeri Johor ke-15 adalah daftar pemilih induk 2021 yang dikemaskini sehingga 21 Januari 2022. Daftar pemilih tersebut mengandungi 2,597,742 orang pengundi.
The number of voters in Johor recorded an increase of about 28% compared to only 1.8 million voters in the 14th general election, with an addition of 749,731 voters aged 18 and above following the automatic registration of Undi 18. The Johor State Legislative Assembly, which was dissolved on January 22nd, has 56 seats. Meanwhile, Pakatan Harapan's DAP and Parti Amanah Negara have completed seat negotiations with the newbie Malaysian United Democratic Alliance, or MUDA, following the Election Commission's announcement of dates for the Johor state election. DAP, Amanah and MUDA, in a joint statement on Wednesday, said negotiations between MUDA and PKR are currently ongoing to achieve unity in facing the Johor state election. The statement said that consensus between Amanah, DAP and MUDA is that MUDA will contest in the Tenang, Bukit Kepong, Parit Raja, Machap, Puteri Wangsa and Bukit Permai seats. The three parties said the decision was finalized by DAP, Amanah and MUDA after several rounds of meetings and negotiations were recently held. Among the other consensus achieved by the three parties was that Amanah, DAP and MUDA would combine their election machinery to support all of its candidates. It added that the move was meaningful in facing the state election as Amanah, DAP and MUDA were about to move as an election strategic partner, although MUDA is not a part of Pakatan Harapan. It said that this is in line with the big camp principle to unite all political parties to take on the Barisan Nasional Perikatan Nasional government. The joint statement was signed by DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng, Amanah President Muhammad Sabu, and MUDA President Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman. Parit Raja and Machap were previously won and contested by UMNO in the 14th general election. Tenang, Bukit Kepong, Puteri Wangsa and Bukit Permai were contested and won by Bersatu during the 14th general election when it was still a part of the Pakatan Harapan coalition. In other news, interest-free loans are among the financial assistance available to micro, small and medium enterprises affected by the recent floods. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said under the informal and micro financial scheme, borrowers could take up a micro loan of up to 10,000 ringgit interest-free. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, in a statement on Wednesday, said affected small and medium enterprises could seek interest-free loans of up to 100,000 ringgit from the SME Emergency Fund. Borrowers will be given 5 years to service their loans, as well as a 12-month moratorium. He added an additional 50 million ringgit would be provided under the informal and micro-financial scheme, while the SME Emergency Fund would be injected with 100 million ringgit to give more businesses the opportunity society to take up financial aid. Through Tekun Nasional, a grant of 3,000 ringgit would be offered to micro and informal businesses affected by the floods, and this initiative was expected to benefit 15,000 of such businesses. The Prime Minister said for the agriculture sector, where losses were estimated at 91 million ringgit, an additional fund of 20 million ringgit would be injected to aid agro-food enterprises affected by the floods. For other agriculture sectors, an additional 50 million ringgit will be provided under the Agro-Food Redevelopment Program, where farmers, breeders and planters can apply for aid up to 50% of their losses through this program. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri also stressed that the government remains committed in its efforts to ease the burden of all sections of the society who are affected by the floods by providing appropriate financial aid. The government will allow students of higher learning institutions, or IPT, under the Higher Education Ministry to return to campus in stages from March 1st. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein said the decision was made after the 12th COVID-19 Quartet ministerial meeting on Tuesday, which refined proposals from the ministry on student admission to IPTs, namely public universities, polytechnics, community colleges and private IPTs. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Sri Hishamuddin said students and staff with complete and incomplete vaccination status are allowed to be on campus. However, those with incomplete vaccination status are required to obtain negative results of RT-PCR tests 3 days prior to returning to the campus, and they also need to take the RTK antigen test once a week. As for existing and new international students, the senior minister said only those who had completed the vaccination are allowed to enter Malaysia. They also have to undergo mandatory quarantine for 7 or 5 days if they have received their booster dose. He added IPTs needed to have the required capacity to accommodate students who attend their classes physically with strict adherence to the SOPs for teaching and learning PDP sessions, while adding they were also allowed to conduct the sessions in a hybrid manner or online. Datuk Sri Hishamuddin also said that all sports and recreational activities also needed to comply with the SOPs issued by the Health Ministry. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has prayed for the swift recovery of Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who tested positive for COVID-19. In a tweet, the Prime Minister also prayed for the chairman of the National Recovery Council and his family to continue to be under Allah's protection. Earlier, Tan Sri Muhyiddin revealed that he had contracted COVID-19 but is only experiencing mild symptoms and was in good condition. The former Prime Minister added he would undergo self-quarantine at home in accordance with the Health Ministry's protocols. He also called on those who might have been in close contact with him to also abide by the ministry's protocols. On Tuesday, Tan Sri Muhyiddin chaired the National Recovery Council meeting at the Finance Ministry in Putrajaya. Also present during the meeting were Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, Finance Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz, Senior International Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali, Senior Education Minister Datuk Dr. Radzi Jidin, Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof, Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Minister Tan Sri Noh Omar, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad, and other members of the Council. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, has predicted that no extreme temperature increase will occur in the near future. This was because there was no phenomenon reported currently, such as El Niño, which could affect weather conditions.
Buat masa ni, pemantauan kami melalui image satelit yang terkini, iaitu pada semalam, 8 hari bulan Februari 2022, menunjukkan bahawa tidak terdapat sebarang titik panas yang direkodkan di negara kita. Begitu juga di negara jiran kita lah, seperti Indonesia dan terutama sekali di Sumatera dan Kalimantan tidak juga merekodkan sebarang titik panas buat masa ini. Di Malaysia pun juga sama, kita juga tidak mencatatkan sebarang titik panas lah. Jadi bahawa masa ini belum ada lagi sebarang tanda-tanda bahawa titik panas tersebut dikesan di negara kita.
He added that the hot and dry conditions currently are considered normal. Besides not carrying out open burning, the public is also advised to use water prudently and adequately, as well as limit activities in the afternoon. So far, the highest temperature recorded recently was in Chuping, Perlis, at 36.6 degrees Celsius. The Royal Malaysia Police have confirmed that there have been 7 cases of death in police custody, and investigations revealed that only one of them involved criminal elements. Bukit Aman Integrity and Standards Compliance Department Director Dato' Azri Ahmad said of the 7 cases reported, 4 were deaths in lockups. The other 2 cases involved death at the hospital, and another died on the way to the hospital. The cases involved the deaths of 6 locals and 1 Myanmar national. According to Dato' Azri, 6 of the cases have been classified as sudden death and have been handed over to the prosecutor for further action, while 1 case has been charged in court. The case was reported on January 13th, involving the death of a 62-year-old local man in Taiping, Perak.
Dan hasil siasatan telah membawa kepada penahanan 2 OKT lain dan 2 anggota polis. Dan kesemua mereka telah ditahan reman oleh Magistrate Mahkamah Taiping selama 7 hari dari 14 Januari hingga 20 Januari 2022.
Dato' Azri said the police had proposed that an integrated clinic be set up at police lockups to monitor the health of those in police custody. He said under the current standard operating procedures, persons in police custody who had health problems would be referred to the nearest hospital. He gave the assurance the Criminal Investigation Unit on Deaths in Custody, set up last January, would investigate all cases of death in police custody. He added that investigations will be conducted transparently without any compromise. After this breather, teenage girl remanded over newborn's death.
The Omicron wave. Will it be yet another challenging year for shopping malls? Plans to reopen international borders. How will this impact shopping tourism? And strategies to attract new foreign retailers. Money Matters with the president of Malaysia Shopping Malls Association, Tan Sri Teo Chiang Kok, this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Thanks for staying with us. In Terengganu, a 15-year-old girl has been remanded for 7 days from Wednesday to facilitate investigations into the death of a newborn baby boy believed to have been stabbed in Kemaman on Tuesday. The remand order was issued by Magistrate Tengku Eliana Tuan Kamaruzaman at the Kemaman Hospital Maternity Ward after receiving an application from the police for investigations for murder under the Penal Code. It was reported that the remand process had taken place at the hospital as the teenager was still receiving postnatal treatment. In the incident on Tuesday morning, a newborn baby boy was found dead with chest injuries, believed to have been stabbed with a sharp object at a house in Felkra Sri Bandi, Chukai in Kemaman. Kemaman District Police Chief Superintendent Hanyan Ramlan was reported to have said the police were notified of the incident by a health worker at about 10 a.m. on the same day, and preliminary investigations at the house found several sharp objects with traces of blood. In Putrajaya, 2 government agency officials and 2 company owners have been remanded for 6 days starting Wednesday to assist in an investigation into a case of soliciting and receiving bribes for a road slope maintenance project worth 300 million ringgit. The remand order by Magistrate Ahmad Ashraf Muhammad was issued following an application by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) on Wednesday. Earlier, the 4 suspects aged between 39 and 42 were detained at the Putrajaya MACC headquarters after they turned up to give their statements. It was said that the 2 government agency officials were suspected of soliciting and receiving bribes as inducement to help the 2 company owners obtain work related to the maintenance of slopes on federal and state roads. One of the government officials is attached to an agency in Negeri Sembilan, while the other is based at the Kuala Lumpur headquarters. In Pulau Pinang, 3 individuals, including an assistant to a special officer, were remanded for 4 days beginning February 9th for allegedly having submitted false claims related to a hawker's program involving more than 80,000 ringgit. The remand order was issued by Georgetown Magistrate R. Manumani. Investigations involving the 42-year-old assistant to a special officer and 2 other individuals were conducted in accordance with Section 18 of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) Act 2009. It is understood that all the individuals involved are believed to have abetted in submitting false details related to the supply of equipment involving 6 companies, while the program in 2020 was not implemented. The 3 individuals, including a woman, were arrested on Tuesday, along with 3 others who have since been released on MACC bail. In Selangor, a robbery at a convenience store in Meru saw the culprits making off with 260,000 ringgit in cash after breaking into an ATM. The incident was reported at around 4:50 a.m. on Tuesday. North Klang District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner S. Vijaya Rao said the 2 suspects' identities were being investigated. He said authorities also believed that the duo seemed professional and skilled at carrying out the heist. He added that a type of gas was used to blow open the ATM via a pipe from their car, which was parked outside the shop. Meanwhile, the car used in the heist is believed to be a cloned vehicle with a fake registration number. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code. Still to come, Thailand a step closer to decriminalizing marijuana. On to the foreign front. Over in Thailand, 20 areas of Bangkok and its surrounding provinces are experiencing air pollution on Wednesday, with the amount of PM 2.5 dust level exceeding the standard value. This prompted the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration's air quality to warn residents to avoid outdoor activities and areas with high air pollution. Residents are also advised to use protective equipment if necessary, as the pollution might affect the people's health, and to consult a doctor if they have any symptoms. Meanwhile, AirVisual's Air Quality Index revealed that Bangkok's air quality on Wednesday was the 30th highest in the globe. Also in Thailand, the government has taken another step towards becoming the first Southeast Asian nation to decriminalize marijuana after its health minister signed a measure officially dropping cannabis from a list of controlled drugs. The measure, which will take effect 120 days after its publication in the Government Gazette, means all parts of cannabis, including flowers and seeds, are allowed to be used in the country. However, the measure retained on its list of controlled drugs parts from the cannabis plant that contain more than 0.2% by weight of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, the psychoactive ingredient that gives users a high. It was said that the ministry's stated policy is to promote the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes and build an industry around derived products. Even so, the production, sale, and possession of cannabis remains partially regulated, meaning recreational use of marijuana is not yet legal. The proposed Cannabis Act would allow only patients whose diseases can be eased with marijuana, such as cancer and depression, to grow the plants at home. Over in the United States, the University of California has agreed to pay nearly $250 million to over 200 women who allege they were sexually assaulted by a campus gynecologist. Multiple women also accused the university's Los Angeles site of deliberately hiding James Heap's sexual abuse of patients and allowed him to continue to have unfettered access to alleged victims over many years. Previously, the university did not begin investigating complaints against Heaps until 2017, and his medical license was only suspended by a judge in 2019 for the duration of the abuse case. Heaps faces 21 criminal counts of sexual abuse against 7 women and has pleaded not guilty. Towns steal the limelight as Timberwolves down Sacramento. Action from the NBA when we come back.
sports, basketball, the NBA. Karl Anthony Towns had 25 points. Minnesota made 22 three-pointers as the Timberwolves won their fifth straight, beating the Sacramento Kings 134-114.
The Timberwolves led 102-90 and pushed their lead to 22 after a 9-0 run capped by D'Angelo Russell's short jumper. Towns scored to make it 124-22, and Jalen Noel's three-pointer pushed the lead to 25. Malik Beasley matched his career high with 7 three-pointers and scored 21 points, helping the Timberwolves to their 9th win in 12 games. The match also saw Russell adding 14 points and 7 assists, while De'Aaron Fox had 29 points, 6 assists, and 7 rebounds after missing 8 games for Sacramento. The two teams play each other again on Thursday.
Turning to tennis, the Argentina Open. 2009 U.S. Open champion Juan Martín del Potro lost in what appeared to be a farewell match in front of his home fans. The 33-year-old, who had not played since 2019 due to injuries, was eliminated by compatriot and friend Federico Del Bonis 1-6, 3-6 in an emotional match in Buenos Aires. Del Potro was already in tears as the final game unraveled. The Argentinian said in a media conference he will decide on Thursday whether he will play at the Rio Open tournament in Brazil next week. And that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at a giant mural covering an entire neighborhood in the San Cristobal Hill in the Peruvian capital. The mural was painted on more than 1,000 houses over the course of 9 months by its own residents with the support of mural artists. With that, I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for tuning in, and let's continue to do our part in keeping Malaysia safe from COVID-19.